This is a video to announce the resignation of Pierre Poilievre. When and how it is going to happen, we'll reveal later in the video. But first and foremost, let's talk about his destination in the 3 by-elections which were held. Poilievre, despite he suffered 3 by-elections, people are trying to please themselves, are trying to mollify themselves within the conservative party structure, that these were not conservative stronghold. However, notice his share of vote has declined from the previous election last year in April. They went to McCartney and the Liberals, giving the Liberals 174 majority, and there will be no election soon. Poilievre suffered 3 by-elections. First and foremost, Poilievre lost his own seat in the last election. He had to go to parliament by-election, forcing somebody to step down. And second, he has lost 4 MPs who have crossed the floor, and there are other more to be crossing. And now, third, this is the final nail on his political coffin. He has suffered 3 by-elections. He was shut out by the Liberals. He was shut out. 3-0 Poilievre. He couldn't see the net. Poilievre says he will continue to lead for now. That's what he claims. But I have current information that he is resigning. The Conservative vote share shrunk by 10% in all 3 in Terrebonne and Quebec. The Conservatives slid by 18.2 of the vote in 2025 to about 3.3 in the by-election. The decline both of the Bloc Quebec, this seat went to the Liberals. In Scarborough South, the Conservative Party of Canada polled less, 12.2 than in 2025 in April last year, and 11.1% less in University Rosedale. Let's recap something here. In Scarborough South, Conservative Party of Canada, they polled less. Their vote share was 12.2% less support than in the previous year, which is in the general election which was held in 2025. And in University Rosedale, which also went to the Liberals, in all 3 by-elections, they are won by women who are now on their way to Ottawa. They polled 11.1% less in University Rosedale. The Conservative Party of Canada, they are trying to place themselves by saying these were not conservative stronghold. However, we are seeing less vote share. Conservative vote is plummeting. The Pierre himself is plummeting in the Mark now leads him by double digits, 31% in the polls. Conservative Party of Canada, this downward trend is not a good sign for the party. Although the Conservative Party of Canada is saying these were not for Pierre Poilievre to win, but it's what we are seeing. We are seeing a downward trend, which is not a good sign for the party. That is, this is writing on the wall. If an election was to be held now, this is an hypothetical situation, although we know that there won't be an election until 2029, which is almost 3 years from now. According to the polls, all Conservative Party of Canada MPs outside Alberta lose their seats. They will lose their seats this month. And inside Alberta, the Liberals will make some inroads. In Alberta and in Saskatchewan, the Liberals will pick very good number of seats. If an election was to be held now, we are looking at more than 250 seats for the Liberals. Carney says he will work with him to advance the interests of Canadians. Carney was asked this question: if you were, would you resign? McCartney says this is an unfair question, and he went on to answer that he's going to work with him to advance the interests of Canadians, and he also says that he respects him as a member of parliament. McCartney is not mean-spirited when he talks about other politicians, unlike Pierre, who calls him uneducated in economics. McCartney has a PhD in economics and has led 2 banks. He is the only foreigner who led the Bank of England in its history in thousands of years. He is the only foreigner to do, but Poilievre has the nerve to call him uneducated in economics. Poilievre, he is a university dropout who has never had a job in his lifetime. And we in Talabon, a few kilometers outside Montreal. The riding is right deep into the heart of Quebec. This is a francophone riding. A win in it says McCann's personal appeal cuts across regional differences, party lines, and specific policies. Carney has been able to draw folk from NDP, Conservative Party of Canada, and that means that ideology doesn't seem to matter as much as pragmatic government is. McCann is delivering for the people of this country. People are seeing what he's doing on the ground for the people. His desire to move the country forward. There are certain things which I've articulated in my other videos. That first is smoothing the barriers, the provincial trade. He's looking for markets abroad and the things he's doing to move the country forward. He's so focused. In my lifetime, I've never seen a prime minister who is as focused as McCartney. Poilievre now trails McCartney by 31 points. They have overwhelmingly decided that McCartney is there. McCartney has demonstrated competent stewardship of the nation's business. He stood up to Trump without being obnoxious. He doesn't call people names like what Pierre does. He has reached out to the world for more reliable trading, diversifying trade, as contained in his speech at the World Economic Forum. He is seeking to diversify trade. All the previous prime ministers, including Stephen Harper, the boss, we have had this precarious situation of that 80% of our exports, they go to United States. And the Americans actually decide how much they want to get Canadian goods. They put a price. It says, we can take this for this much and take it or leave. And Canadians, they actually have to plead with the Americans, please buy out, please buy out. That's not trade. Trading is like any other business. Look for what is best for their buck. If we are to elect Pierre today, what does he bring to the world of experience in politics? Pierre is a university dropout. He has been a career politician all his life. He has not worked a single job. I remember seeing a clip that had just been elected as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. He was asked in Parliament by Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party, and says, what job experience do you bring to the office of the Prime Minister? And he said something like, I was in the government of Stephen Harper and I helped him balance the budget. I helped him this, and that's the job I'm applying for, and that's what I'll bring to the Canadians. He has no other experience outside politics to talk of. You can't compare him to McCartney, who has been an executive at Goldman Sachs. He was the governor of the Central Bank of Canada and the governor of Bank of England. He is the only foreigner to head the Bank of England. And again, if we look at his education, he is the only Canadian Prime Minister with genuine, authentic. What do I mean by that? In the history of this country, the other Prime Minister with a PhD was William Lyon Mackenzie King. Here's what happened with William Lyon Mackenzie King. He was an instructor at Harvard, and he had a master's in economics and went to Harvard as an instructor. He then quit and came back to Canada. 11 years later, he went back to Harvard with a PhD thesis in his hand. And he says, when I was here, I wrote this thesis. He successfully defended. Those who are not familiar with the process of getting a PhD, there are comprehensive exams, and then you have to appear before a panel of professors, mostly from that school and from the outside. They also invite professors from the outside, from other universities. And back in the days, probably in the time of William Lyon Mackenzie King, the Americans, they also used to involve the British people. They used to get professors from these universities like University of Cambridge, some of these prestigious British universities. They also used to fly them over. He successfully defended his thesis and he was awarded a PhD. Now, people who were writing his biography in contemporary times, they approached Harvard about this controversy of his PhD, whereby someone shows up 11 years later and says, I wrote this thesis when I was here. And then Harvard refused to comment. Then Posthumously, Harvard was also approached people who are writing about William Lyon Mackenzie King and refused to comment. So people have put an asterisk on his PhD. Here's what is happening with people. He blames everything else than himself. No, it is the liberals who are making backroom to make people cross the floor or have betrayed their voters. Pierre, instead of facing your own inadequacies and perhaps work on them and see if you can improve, Pierre is criticizing everything else. He's saying these conservative defectors that they betrayed their vote. The liberals are making backroom deals. He was on one of these podcasts where he's saying there should be a legislation that when someone wants to cross the floor, then we nullify, we hold a by-election and see if he can be elected as a liberal. But I want to remind you something. In Canada, we don't elect political parties, we elect members of parliament. Mostly want to talk to them and find out what exactly they are offering. Let's look at how Pierre can improve himself. What would make people more confident in Poilievre? As I said in the other video, what would make people more confident in Poilievre as a leader? More willingness to work with others when needed, work across the aisle, work across with McCann. The objective of politics is not that you assume power, is that you improve the life of Canadians, the life of the citizens. More willingness to work with others when needed, a more respectful and measured tone of voice, a clear policy and details, more focus on kitchen table issues. Affordability, as I said in my other video, we need clear policies, not just affordability, not offer slogan, not say I'll remove taxes. Price is determined by what goes into the production of a particular product. And of course, the company has to stay above water, and then they have to put a markup so that they can pay their bills and pay their employees and make profit for the shareholders. These are the basics of what determines the price of anything. Also, you have to have a strong team and more visible members of parliament, more freedom for MPs to speak publicly. As I said, there is an MP candidate in one of the Eastern right who lost to the Liberals. He says he lost because you were not allowing him to speak. You want to speak. You don't have to monopolize speaking. They understand the core values of the party, the core philosophical values of the political party. So they can speak them for themselves on certain issues. This is what I would do for this riding if I am elected. In Canada, we elect MPs. We don't vote for the leader of the party. If I'm to vote for an MP here in my riding, I have to understand, like the one which we voted for last time. I met her. She came to my door and we stood outside for about 20 minutes. And I had to ask her questions, what she was going to do for this riding if she's elected. I didn't ask the leader of the party, but I asked her what she was going to do. And she articulated all her objectives for the right. It's not always the leader who has to speak. Whoever gave you that, you are advised. He is set to resign in about 3 weeks. There has been a revolt from his caucus within the party rules. Although Pierre was confirmed by the party, 90% of the delegates, as I said that last time, it was a read vote. But the caucus reserved the right to pass a vote of no confidence on their leader. There was an emergency meeting in the aftermath of 3 losses and the plummeting of the conservative vote in those ridings. It was seen that Pierre is unfit to lead, and Pierre is now his way out. What begins in arrogance has now ended up in shame. Thank you, Pierre, for your service to this country. The bottom line, the by-election wins of 3 Liberals MPs in 3 ridings gives a hint of what might happen in the next federal election. But we are getting an indication of what will be happening. With the next trip to the polls, although next trip to the polls is several years away, there is of time for the Conservative Party of Canada to read the writing on the walls and make amends for themselves and see if they can fix their party. But Pierre is not their man. They will have to choose a more credible. Probably they have to look outside their caucus, just like what the Liberals did with Mark Carney. Canadians have made it clear on their opinion of Pierre. He is not seen as a Prime Minister. The only question now is what the party will do about it. Of course, as I said, he's set to resign, he's set to go. What begins in arrogance ends up in shame. If they decide to stick with the status quo, that's a recipe for continuing political irrelevance. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to this channel.